Hi, this is Vince, Auto Restoration Videos. Make sure to check out my website, autorestorationvideos.com. Click on my Facebook link to find out a more in-depth description of what I'm about to do today, which is how to change your fuel filter on an 82 Porsche 911. Now, the first thing you have to do, naturally, is try to assure that you have no pressure in the system. That means probably don't drive your car for 2 days at least. Let your pressure subside. Because if you just turn off your car and you go in here and you start to take off your fuel filter, what's going to happen is you're going to get a spray like you won't believe. It's going to go all over the place. Second, I would really suggest getting yourself some mechanic's gloves. This way, if you go to skin your knuckles, at least you won't take a chunk of skin out and you might rip your glove. Better to rip the glove than rip your skin. Another thing is to make sure you have the right fuel filter before you even start the job. Now, this is going to be in tight quarters. It's a really tight fit. There's not enough room to work in. Off the top of my head, I'd say if you take this to a Porsche dealer, they would charge you at least $200 to change this thing. Okay, I got this on eBay, new old stock, around $12. I think normally I've seen them on eBay for like, $25 to $30. That's including shipping. All right, but so for like maybe 12 bucks, I'm able to do a $200 job at least, at the bare least. All right. So if you're not into saving money, or you don't want to get your hands dirty, you shouldn't even be watching this video. Go back, play your video games or something. All right. And let the dealership do it. Okay. But I like to work on the car myself, so I'm going to be doing it now. The first thing we have to worry about here is our big heater hose. That comes right through here. I'm going to go ahead and get this camera to zoom in a little more over here so you can see what I'm talking about. I'll give you a brief description right now. Once we remove this big heater hose that's in the way, we can get our hand in there. It's like a 3-inch heater hose. And then after that, we can go ahead and take off the top hose, the top metal fuel line that goes on. Then there's a bottom metal fuel line that goes on. Then there's a little bracket that goes around the outside. It looks like it just has a little screw in it. Okay? Now, the thing is here, I wouldn't do this if you're in the garage in the wintertime and you have a space heater going. All right, the fumes could blow up your whole garage. Do not have a space heater going. Do not have anybody turning on lights while you're inside your car. Do not turn on any radios. Do not work any electrical appliances at all. Even if you have a freezer or anything that goes on automatically that could create a little spark, it's no good. Disconnect it, especially if you're working in confined quarters. Now I'm going to be working with the garage door open, even though it's only about 40 degrees out. But it's either that or blow the whole place up. Now, for the first part of this, you will need some metric sockets. To start off, you're going to need like an extension with a ratchet with a 10mm socket on it. And you will also need a screwdriver. Regular Yankee slot head type. First thing we want to do is remove the clamp on the bottom of our heater hose. You can just let that hang there. Now, the second thing we want to do is remove this little 10mm bolt that goes in, that holds this clamp, which actually the hose is actually attached to our clamp. Now, be very careful, because if you drop this nut, chances are you will never see it again the rest of your life. And you'll have to go out and buy another one. I would suggest taking off your glove. So if it does start to fall, you can catch it easier. You can have more of a feel for it. Very careful you don't drop it. Watch me drop it. I don't believe I got it out in one piece. Now put that aside. Now, by all rights, this hose should just come right out. Okay. Now that was the easy part. Now the next thing you want to get is a 19mm open-end wrench. Now sometimes you might have to get two 19mm wrenches to hold the nut that's underneath that, because that's actually a fitting that goes right into your fuel filter. Sometimes that might turn too. But I lucked out here and it came off pretty easy. So you just untwist that off. Now, I only got a drop or two out of that, so thank God that we don't have much pressure. Now let's try the bottom one. It looks like it might almost be an 18. Now we have the other line for something else going right next to it. It's stopping us a little bit. Might be able to push that out of the way a little. Okay, now this one isn't that easy. I'm going to have to use two wrenches. I'm going to have to hold the fitting with one and hold the line with the other. And go ahead and try to get it off, because I need something really secure. Because the whole filter is starting to twist. Because there's really nothing holding except that little tiny clamp there, and that's just holding it in place. It's not really holding it firm. Now I had to remove this hose that was in here. This heater hose was underneath to give myself a little more room. And I found out bottom nut on here is 17mm. Except it's made out of real soft metal. And what I really need is a flare wrench like this, but in 17 millimeter. This is an SAE one, and there isn't a crossover between the two. So I'm either going to have to use a vice grip or get a metric flare nut wrench. Now, I finally was able to get the fuel filter out. But in order for me to get this fuel filter out, I had to get myself a flare nut wrench. You really shouldn't even attempt this job without metric flare nut wrenches. They go like 3/4 of the way around the nut. Now, the problem was here, it was put on so tight, it was almost impossible to get off. And I used a regular open-end wrench like this, and what happened was, when I went around it, it rounded off some of the corners in the back. Now, after it rounded off the corners in the back, even this flare nut wrench wouldn't fit. But I was lucky, I was able to get my file and just file off some of the burrs that were on the back. And I was able to get this flare nut wrench on there and remove it. So now, what happened was even though I didn't drive this car for like a couple months, there still was a lot of gas left in that filter, and it all ran down on the side of the pan here, the engine pan, and it just dripped right onto the floor. So you're gonna do a job like this, you want to make sure you have some cat litter or premium floor absorbent material. Okay, just like cat litter, but it works a lot better. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the other filter in, and we'll see how that goes. Now that shouldn't be no problem, I hope. Now you see right here is where our ring goes. Our clamp to hold the fuel filter. This is it. Now this has to go in here and goes behind here. And the fuel filter goes into that. The only way this fuel filter can go in now is right up through the top here, like straight in, and then we have to push it down. I just felt a big burr. Okay, so now that's going to be another problem. I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to hold this thing in here while the fuel filter is in it. Now you see, this is just sitting in here now. I still have to bring this clamp down. I'm still figuring this out as I'm talking. I think maybe if I can get the thread started on this in the bottom, then I can maybe push this clamp up. It might catch that clamp bracket in the back. I hope. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to go ahead and screw this in just finger tight in the bottom here, and we'll see what happens. What you have to do is push this clamp, this fuel filter, as hard as you can up against that housing in the back. That's the housing that retains this hose clip. Alright? Push this back as hard as you can. And when you're pushing it back, have this clamp open as far as you can get it. And as you're pushing it back, push the hose up against the filter and slide it up. And it will connect to the back, to the hose clamp housing. And just tighten it down. Now all I have to do is just tighten up my nuts on the top and the bottom, and I should be done. It was a rough one. Now, you notice right here, this is the brain. This is my computer here. Why they have the fuel filter next to this big heat sink, all right, is beyond me. They couldn't put this somewhere else? That's just crazy. They should have really mounted this up front under the car or something, along with the fuel pump. But then it would have been too close. Yeah, I see. No, still it would have been better. And if you look at this, my fuel pump, it's olive drab. This must have came off an army vehicle or something. Now, since I had to take this old hose out, my old heater hose, for hot air, I might as well replace it with the new one. It'll look much better. I have to clean up the clamp. Well, that's just about it. The only thing I didn't do was check it to see if it leaks. I don't have a battery in it. I'll check that out soon, though. I just hope there wasn't a reason why the guy had to go through the Superman routine to tighten down that one bottom nut on there. And keep my fingers crossed. But that should do it. I mean, it is a pipe thread. You know, it locks. It shouldn't leak. Looks good with that extra new hose in here. Now this one hose here, that's another story. Oh, no other way to do it. There's no room for a 3-inch hose here. But I'm going to have to figure something out. That's the next project. Okay guys, this has been SotoRestorationVideos.com. Wishing you good luck in your future attempts on all your mechanical work.